And scene. Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Card Dad. It's the Pick Six podcast.
You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
DPZ is back in the house to talk about actually some pretty good news on the DPZ front. And we've got some worldly stuff to talk about. And actually, I'm going to be catching a flight. Actually, when this drops, I will already be in Rome. So there you have it. Yeah. So Dennis, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I've been really good. I think this latest these auctions have been treating me pretty good. I'm actually pretty pleased with how well some of these cards are performing. I've discussed before, I had to put a few cards up for auction. Not cards I really wanted to sell, but I kind of needed to move on, raise some capital for some stuff, and they all did really, really well. And I didn't lose a dime. And so, it got me to thinking, wow, I don't think I've lost any money. And maybe it's been a couple times because it's a private thing. Sometimes, the rarer cards you can run into that, but like 98% of the time, I'm not losing money, and so that's encouraging for that market, right? And I think it's encouraging overall for cards.
I was going to ask you too, what was the timeline? Like, when did you buy these sales? Just to try to give, I guess, like viewership, like an idea of like, did you buy these 6 months ago or 2 years ago, or, just to get an idea? And then do you want to share what it was? A couple of the things?
Yeah. All within the last 2 years of some of the sales I've gotten, some within 6 months, because I just kind of changed my mind. And, I did my normal thing I do. I bought and
you shipped it off and said, send it back.
I let it go, catch and release. I think one of the ones that recently I've spoken about it on one of our shows is that Vince Carter Raised the Roof. I bought it from a really good collector friend of mine for $7,000, and then it sold for $9,300. And I had it probably for like 3 months. I didn't really want to sell it, but I was able to pick up from the same guy some really great Ray Allen 1-of-1 superfractors. Like 2000 Topps Chrome, one from his championship year in 2007, and the Boston Celtics, and a Seattle Sonics one from 2005, which is the only one we know to exist. 4, we can't find it. No one knows where it's at. Those were just 2 cards I just had to get. So I had to move on from that one, and the PMG red that I bought as well, of Ray, the red PMG, and they all sold for more than I paid. I think I paid $9 for the PMG. It sold for $11,700. $9,300 for the Vince Carter Raised the Roof. I paid $7,000. So it's just I bought a superfractor of Mike Trout. It sold for $5,000. I bought it for $25,000. So I feel like I got some good deals, but I think overall I paid what the market was asking for, and then I think the market's been kind of changing, and maybe there's more movement towards those types of cards. Of course, it's not for everything, but I was been pleasantly surprised the last few auctions. They've done well. I haven't lost any money. I lose the most money on some of the obscure basketball stuff, like the exquisite David Robinson stuff. His market's kind of interesting. That's why I only have a couple of his cards, because those 2 cards are like pretty critical cards that I feel like are going to be strong about regardless. But outside of that, I think, and even Ray Allen, I mean, you gotta, the set's got to really work, right? What I've talked about last show is like the PSA 10s make me a little nervous. Like when it's a high pop card, but the PSA 10 is a low pop card, and that's driving your value. Case in point, the 87 Fleer. I got that for $15,000, I think a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, $15,000, and it sold for $22,000. So it's been kind of hovering between 18 and 20.
The Jordan market's probably been the hottest market outside of maybe like Ohtani over the last couple of years, maybe. I mean, like, he's just been on a rocket ship, I feel like, a lot of his stuff. The Jordan.
I think I'm thinking about getting back into that Fleer sticker 89 too, because the rest of them in 10s are just kind of, the 88 Fleer base is just it's not a great looking card. Nobody really cares for it. But the 88 sticker in 10 is like a $50,000 card. So that ain't happening. The 87 is a $40,000 card. That ain't happening. The 86 is ridiculous. And that ain't happening. So if I want a 10 of a Michael Jordan from the era that actually I remember, because I think with all his 90 stuff, it's like you can't even touch it.
Now, are we talking? Is it the sticker or is it the All-Star?
Sticker.
It's the All-Star card.
88. Yeah.
Line. Yeah, that's a hell of a card, dude.
That's a hell of a card. It's a cool card. It's a card we all remember from our youth. That one sells for about 5 or 6. There's about 3, almost 400 10s in that card, but it's still very popular. The 89 Fleer sticker, I had that before, which is a tricky one because there's a few of them out there, but the centering on the top is kind of where you want to look at that card, and for a 10, because they're generous with the centering. you want to find a good centered 10. I think the people that are really trying to target that card know to look for that. At least that's what I'd look at. So I'm thinking about getting back into that one, but just to have another Jordan, because I don't have a Jordan anymore, and that's a cheaper one, that not cheaper but less expensive, something that's reasonable, and maybe that'll go up over time, kind of thing. But and it's 89 Fleer. I know it's 89 Fleer, but it's like, but that was like when I was like really into collecting. I loved 89. Everything 89 was like, that was like the pinnacle for me. So
absolutely, yeah. I even like the oh god, which one is it? It's 8990. It's like the league leaders card where he's going up for a dunk, but in a 10, it's like $1,000 card maybe in PSA 10. I can't remember though which brand it is. It's not Hoops. It's is it 89?
I think it is.
Is it Fleer?
I think it is Fleer.
It might be the Fleer card, like the league leaders one where he's kind of going up to dunk. I believe it's league leaders. Maybe I can pull it up. But
you pull it up, see it. Yeah, that's a cool one. That's about $1,000. There's about 1,000 PSA 10s, but there's tons of those out there, right?
Yes.
Not just 10s, but tons of those. They printed so much of that. So that's a fun card to get into, to get a 10 of a Jordan of the era that we all grew up in. And if you just start getting into all the really cool cards, and there's some really awesome collectors that have such amazing Jordan cards. Even the PSA 10s, there's a few people buying a lot of PSA 10 Jordans. They're kind of getting out of control. So I think that's kind of the last one that's not crazy. Yeah, that one.
That's just and this is a nostalgia card, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a base card. This is just base card from that set. And it's a great card. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, you're going to have all the Jordan, people kind of – some of the big-time collectors thumb their nose, but –
yeah, this is 89. Well, I think, part of it, too, if we're talking about, like, the Hoges of the world, shout out Chris Hoge if you watch this, but, like, he didn't grow up with this card. He's younger than us. Like, I think he's, 35 or something? I mean, I'm almost 10 years older than Hoge, I think. So, I mean, like –
well, yeah, there's that. And Chris got into the hobby and got into Jordan back kind of before everything kind of blew up, and so he was able to kind of get into Jordan and get some of those really cool cards from the 90s, and it wasn't too crazy for him.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But he targeted the cool cards right off the bat, so he got into the cards that he liked. And I, knowing as a collector, those are the cards that spoke to him, and that's how you collect, man. I mean, that's kind of the same way we're like, hey, these cards speak to us. Yeah, they're not the flashiest and the rarest, but they matter. They mean something, right? I went and got like the Tiffany Junior PSA 10. I went and got another one of those. I bought it from another Griffey friend of mine. Actually lives around me here. And, getting that back was important because I'm like, those are cards that matter to me. Some of these don't. And that's why you sell them. 87 Flair Jordan did. It's a card I collected as a kid. That pained me to get rid of. But at the same time, like, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a base card on a PSA 10. So I'm like, I think I'm going to sell that one. So I might take a little bit of that, some of the stuff I made, and maybe go grab that.
On that note, I wanted to share screen here on a sale that I thought was interesting because I caught this. I can't remember where I saw this first, but it was basically like, so Golden sold this SGA, the Gold Prism, PSA 10, and this is a March sale. So this is March 30th. This is going back before he won, and it was like 100. So right here, 152,005. And then I can't remember exactly where I saw it online. Maybe it was on IG or something. But basically, the same card or one of these copies is Pop 3 sold for 120 grand, like 130 or something. Like basically, it lost $20,000 in the last 3 months after he won the title.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that wild? I mean, it does kind of speak to, the speculation leading up to somebody actually doing something, but it's still weird though, that it wouldn't at least hold, like if the guy wins it, like he won MVP in that time and he won a title and the card went down 20 grand.
Yeah. I mean, the modern stuff is just priced so differently. They bake stuff in. So that's the problem with modern is people are baking in championships, MVPs and things like that. So even when they win, sometimes it's just like, well, yeah, that's what we expected you to do.
I do think that's a cautionary tale for folks that are buying Black Finites and Gold Prisms for ultra modern players, because it doesn't necessarily, there could be a lot of that stuff already baked in. The pricing is so much more volatile than what you were buying. Like the pricing, you had some gains on those, but it wasn't crazy volatile. The stuff kind of did its thing over time. Still like really good money back on it, but just not the same sort of spec money probably.
Well, and the thing you gotta remember too, like in buying those particular cards, like other than the Jordan, most of those cards aren't selling very often. This may be the first time. Like I think the Carter, that was the first time it sold in a long time, like many years. Same thing with the Ray Allen. There's been a couple, 2 or 3 years. Like it's not a card that sells all the time. The Jordan PSA 10 sells, maybe once a month. There's enough of them and there's enough demand that they sell, and there's still a high demand for them, obviously, but they sell more often. So you're taking a risk there. The Trout 2011 PSA 10 Gold Topps update. I mean, that doesn't sell very often at all, and I broke even on that one, so that was kind of an interesting one. Yeah, I know those are cards I don't miss. Like I kind of miss I miss having a Jordan in my collection, and I kind of miss that sticker. So that's a card that I might target again. I haven't bought a card in a long time. It's been a few months, so. But at the same time, I was selling these cards for a reason. I needed to raise capital, and I did that, and so I'm not in a hurry to jump into anything at this point. So.
Do you think that like the SGA sale, I would assume, we know the Jordan, especially the more higher end stuff, there's a much deeper collector base for Jordan. Whereas for the SGA, it's kind of like, is there a big collector base for SGA right now? Or is that more of someone's trying to make a play on it, buying and selling it, and it just didn't work out? That particular sale just didn't work out the way that they anticipated. Or is it, you would think that somebody, I don't know, I just feel like there's enough deep pockets out there, like Oklahoma City fans. Somebody would just be like, some deep pocket person out there would be would want to hold that card.
It's hard for me to speculate on the new stuff. I'm not playing around in that sandbox very often. Yeah. If you're asking people like me what I think, I wouldn't touch anything modern right now. You kind of want to wait and see how things play out. Like if there's anybody I think about buying that's modern, I'd maybe wait a couple more years and maybe start looking at Jason Tatum, like people that have been doing it for a little bit, that actually have shown there wasn't just hype all around them. They actually had something to them. But I don't know if Tatum's even going to be that person, but those are the kind of players you want to look at. They've kind of grown, they've become something special. They're transcending the sport. Will Ja Morant do that? Can he do that? Can Cooper Flag? These young guys, like I wouldn't touch them. Look what happened to Zion. That's the cautionary tale. There's
a lot of mystery around the NBA right now. I feel like, you look at like LeBron and Steph are getting to the twilight. They're coming to the end, mm-hmm. But who is really the NBA superstar right now? Is it Jokic? I think part of the problem is you don't have enough guys with personality. I know that like a lot of guys like Anthony Edwards, because he's got personality. He's high flying, he's a good player. He's a very good player. I think people are looking for kind of that combination of likability or just like the game. Like with SGA, he's a foul magnet or whatever. He can draw fouls like nobody else. He gets all sorts of flack because, he gets to the free throw line and he draws fouls better than everybody else. I don't know. You look at the NBA and it's one of those leagues that it's interesting. There's not really that next superstar that's emerged to me. Out of the group. Look, going back to 2018, where it's SGA, it's Luka, you mentioned Zion and Ja. Who is it over the last 7 years? There's really nobody that is a clear cut taking over the league once LeBron and Steph leave. I don't see him.
I don't see it either. I think they were hoping Luka would be that guy, but the personality's not there. He's obviously, he's not performing. Jokic he's like a Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, Jokic is awesome, but he's got no personality.
There's not a transcending characteristic of his.
No, there's no.
Yeah, I agree.
Commercials.
He's the best player, but he's not going to draw that kind of attention. But he's clearly probably the best player in the league, obviously. There really isn't anybody that's outstanding that has the full game. The perimeter game, and then can slash. And I am not a basketball analyst, so that's the last thing I would ever consider contributing conversation to. But no, there's really nobody sticking out. I think the hobby wants to hype up some people because we want to have some perspective fun, right? That's whole part of it. But as far as like a clear cut, like a Michael Jordan type player, or a Kobe Bryant, or a LeBron James, or even Steph Curry, no, I don't see anybody right now. There's a lot of good players, but is there a great legendary player right now? I don't know. That transcends everything. I don't know. And if there was that person, I think we'd all be scrambling to buy their cards. Yeah, I think Caitlin Clark has more of that going on in the WNBA than anybody in the NBA does. So that's interesting.
like in the NFL, you've got at least Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes is like that generational player. And then you've got guys that are fighting him. You know, you've got Joe Burrow and you've got Josh Allen and you've got, you know, the Jalen Hurts of the world. These are guys that are, you know, it's kind of like Jordan versus Drexler and Reggie Miller and all those guys. I mean, in the NFL, there's a lot of quarterbacks fighting each other for greatness. So there's, you know, say what you will. I understand, like, you know, buying modern quarterbacks is not exactly a great idea either, but at least there's something there. Mahomes is that next guy after Brady. It's clear.
It's all about sustainable success. How much sustained success has some of these quarterbacks had? A lot of them, they have their moments, like, you know, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Joe Montana, Dan Marino, John Elway. These guys all had like sustained success over a long period of time. Steve Young. You can start going backward. You have Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that had sustained success. They were good for a long time, and you don't have as much of that right now. You maybe have flashes or a couple of years of greatness, and then off you go, and down you go. For baseball, we got Ohtani. You know, right now, Ohtani and Judge are kind of the ones that everybody's watching and looking at. There's been a lot of really big players that we thought were going to be something, like even Julio in Seattle, not doing so great. I mean, our catcher's way better than he is. I think that you just but the clear-cut people are, it's like, oh yeah, that guy. Like when we were younger, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds. I mean, it was just like obvious. Michael Jordan. Those people even like idolized each other. I think Ohtani's the guy for baseball. I think you're right with football. Patrick Mahomes was Brady, but he's done. For basketball, I don't know. Like you got Connor McDavid for hockey. I mean, it's pretty clear. He's the guy. In basketball, I don't know. There's a lot of good players, but who's the guy who is like the face of the league? Face of the league. I don't think there is one. I don't think there's someone that just transcends the sport. And because the European thing is always interesting. I don't think a European player will be able to do that as well as an American player. For some reason, even though sport is so much more of a global sport, I think it's harder for a European player to capture the American's imagination and to transcend the sport, which would then turn them into like a magnet for prospectors and cards and all that. But yeah, I don't know who that's I don't know who that is. But there's a lot of good players vouching for. I mean, will SGA be that guy? I don't know. I still don't. I don't know. I don't watch enough basketball to be really making this argument, though. I think, but maybe I can make the argument. I'm not watching a lot of basketball, but I would know who the person was. Just like I don't watch. Maybe
that is the argument. Is we're not watching very much basketball because there isn't somebody worth watching that that is like.
And maybe that's the argument. And if we knew of that player, we would know of that player. I think. Yeah.
I'm watching more. I've watched more WNBA games in the last week with the last few months with Caitlin Clark than I have the NBA over the last couple of years. I mean, and it's not that it's amazing basketball, but she has that it factor for that league. Like she is that player for that league. So let's go back to your kind of your bread and butter, because are you still thinking, even though you sold and stuff feels like it continues to move up? Do you feel like there's still kind of pockets there for people to buy in? Because I was looking at some of the select mirror golds, because you were talking about those and some, like I almost bought a John Elway that's on eBay, just because I was like, DPZ said that these are like the best looking cards, and I just want to have one just so I can hold it and like look at it in person.
Yeah, no, Grayson and I have a Jim Kelly PSA 9 mirror gold still, and I might go and grab maybe a cheaper one too. I mean, the Barry is worth a lot more, and so I moved that to a great collector friend of mine. But yeah, I think that card, that particular brand, and it's kind of like still under the radar, and we've talked about that set before. I still think it's amazing. It's a beautiful set. It's worth getting a card or two from it, and you don't have to spend a ton of money, which is, to me, is becoming more attractive, because it's like, it's not fun to have to sit there and go, okay, I got to buy this and then pay all this to sell all this to buy this. Like, man, it just kind of takes the fun away from it a little bit, right? So I'm getting more into like, hey, here's a type of card I love that I can get of a good player in a higher grade, but not spend all that money and still enjoy getting a card. I'm with you. I'm still kind of looking at those mirror golds as well, as like, there's some pretty cool football ones, some basketball from some baseball ones that are the football look the best. The football, as I've had a baseball one, I've had a football one, and I've had a hockey one. The football looks the best. The mirror, whatever technology they used for those mirror golds, they just look amazing. Like in hand, they're unbelievable. It's one of my son's favorite cards that he has. We bought it together, and he has it. But yeah, it's a cool set, and I think so. There's opportunities to get cards like that from that era without spending a ton of money. I think there's a little bit of fatigue going on in the hobby with the amount of money some of these cards are selling for, and people are like, people don't have money for that. They just don't. And there's two arguments around that though. It's like this: we're getting squeezed, and inflation's going to come, which we could probably segue into that next topic. And you're going to have people going, well, I don't have the money to spend on that stuff. I definitely don't want to be spending a good amount of money on that. I don't think that means that the value of those cards or that it's going to affect the value. I just think people may not buy them as much, and with the people that have them may not even sell them because there might not be as much of a market to buy them that they want, nor do they want to sell them because these kinds of cards are pretty cool and you kind of want to keep them if you can.
Yeah, let me throw a little bit of a wrench into that because I was actually just thinking over the last couple of weeks I was at Fanatics Fest. I don't know if we've talked since I got back from Fanatics Fest. Did we talk last week? Maybe we did. I don't remember. But the one thing that kind of struck me, and not to say that there was just like a room full of whales buying, huge expensive cards, but there is such a push out there, for Michael Rubin and the gang to really kind of broaden it out to sports fans. And they did have that Museum of Excellence that had a lot of like game used jerseys and stuff, but they had cards. They had like basically a complete set of green PMGs, including, I believe it was Nat Turner's Jordan, the authentic altered. But it was on display and they had like an estimated, worth for what it was. So all these people were going through and looking at it and they were like, wow, these cards are $1 million or whatever, they had it all kind of mapped out. It was a really interesting event in that way because it was not a card show crowd that was there. Yeah, you had I recognize obviously like other content creators and some card people, but there was 100,000 people there that were not card people at all. And so I kind of wonder if, more and more people are introduced and they do look at like, wow, how much is this? How much is that? And they do kind of pay closer attention to trading cards. And we get more and more of kind of the bigger money that's outside of our known collector group people. They're outside of like the Spinatrons of the world that we know have, big cards. There could just be big money that comes in. It's like, what? I want to have some big cards too, and I think that part will be interesting because a lot of us kind of, came in 2018 and 1920 kind of in that, in that range. And I always wonder how many more people are coming in, that, just coming in this year, next year, the year after to kind of add another bidder, to some of these cards. I'm always curious thinking about that stuff.
Yeah, that might be, I'm sure it's happening. There's definitely people buying because you wouldn't see these cards be selling for the number that there's people buying cards. I think the market's very healthy. There's some people that have opinions on what kind of cards should be selling for what, and everybody has their opinion on that, and that's fine. I think that there are people coming into the hobby, but you have to remember too, a lot of these people, these big sets like Spinatron, he was buying those cards years, like decades ago.
Oh yeah.
So he's been, a lot of these collectors that have these amazing collections, like even Nat, he was buying them when they weren't that expensive. And
right.
A lot of people that bought in when it was high and got out, I think most of those people are gone now. Everything's kind of level set from the big 2021 bubble. But just case in point, if I'm buying something the last couple of years and I'm still making out okay on it, then, and I always think if I can just at least get my money back, it's a win in my opinion. The fact that you can do that now, I think shows a maturity of the market. People have cards. I think a lot of the people that have bought cards that were super cheap and then they went way up have already sold those cards. So I think the cards you see now being, transacted on and changing hands are cards that were bought in the last 2 or 3 years, unless they're super rare and you never see it kind of thing. There's not as many of those because there's people like me who keep changing their mind and putting public sales out there. But then I'm trying to be mindful and do private sales when I can to keep stuff off the market. But ultimately, I think there's a desire and there's a demand for, like I said, all the certain sets. There's always going to be a demand for the stuff that's like the 89s, 88 junk wax stuff that's popular. There's always going to be a demand for that. I think I'm part of a couple collector groups and I can see the people collecting all kinds of different things and they're very happy collecting where they're at and it's all vibrant. And it's great. It's super cool. It's really cool to see. So I think the market's very good. I just think that certain people are going to stop there's certain people that'll go, I don't want to I don't want to risk selling this at auction and getting less than what I paid for it, A, or B, I don't know if I want to sell this because I don't know if I'm ever going to get it back. There are still those people that are going to do that. I'm at a spot now where it's kind of hard for me to think, what else am I going to sell? Like, I'd have to really part with something that I'd have a hard time parting with. And that's much of the reason why I don't want to buy anything else, because I'm like, well, I don't want to sell anything to buy it. So it's got to be something pretty cool for me to sell what I'm at like 15 cards now. It'd be like I have to make a really tough decision and to sell something I would never get back. There's only one card I'm kind of pursuing, and the guy I just sold one of my cards to privately has it because I sold it to him, and it's a super rare King Griffey Jr. card, and he has it, and I know he has it, which is cool. So I can always, he knows I want it back, and so there's always that kind of that waiting game on that, which is kind of fun. But I just, I really went to town. I sent the card to him in a really nice case. He's a great collector, great guy. So, but I sent him in a little dragon case, single card holder. I packed it well. I overnighted it, FedEx. Did all of. I just tried to do a little extra. So like, hey, just think of me when you think of the Red Letters. He knows that I want that back. That's the kind of card I think right now, other than like maybe that Jordan I was talking about. That's kind of intriguing. I'd probably figure something out for that one because it's a rare one that you never see, and that's the kind of stuff I'm kind of loving these days. And I want just more King Griffey Jr. cards, to be honest with you. I'm kind of basketballed out a little bit, other than maybe that Jordan, just to have a Jordan. Yeah. I'm really feeling just I want to get more of his stuff because that's what I love, man. I love King Griffey Jr. He's like my favorite ever, and I just want more of his cards. And so but I think there's going to be that demand for all the types of players and cards. So I think it's a healthy place to have money. If you're gonna, I wouldn't be nervous at all, especially with where things are going with the deficit and all that. I'd feel comfortable with cards, especially the certain ones, right?
The certain ones. I mean, and you said it, just maybe avoiding some of the ultra modern stuff until you kind of see how it plays out, because there's so much. That's always the really tricky part is figuring out how much is already baked in, and you just don't know, and you can get smoked, on some of that really new stuff.
Or go buy some of your stuff, buy cards from players of your favorite teams. They may not be the star players. Or go get a cool card of theirs. Like, have fun. That's kind of where I'm leaning more. I'm trying to lean more in that direction. Like, just have fun with it. It's not worth so much about having to move and sell stuff to buy. It's as fun as it can be sometimes. It's just exhausting. Yeah, and I'm just kind of like, it's just time out. Like we talked about, let's take a break. Just enjoy what you got.
Is part of the transacting just feeling like you're a part of the game? Like you always need to be kind of like transacting a little bit because it's like you're
kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if you didn't buy a card all year, and you just like, it's easy to say like, enjoy what you have. You have great stuff. And I talk about that too. Like, I just need to enjoy what I have. But then there's also parts where I'm like, but I want to be kind of in the game. I want to be like making a move here or there or whatever,
Exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, so we can say that, but we also want to. I was looking at some cards this afternoon. Even I'm like, it's hard not to not. I buy them like I used to? No, I look at them and go, no.
I guess they really are trading cards. We're just trading them out one for another all the time. We're just trading.
That's what's really cool. Like selling that Barry Miragold to the buyer, he keeps everything. Like he doesn't sell stuff very often, and he still has that card that Griffey I sold him a couple years ago, which is like super cool. That's just neat because now I'm like, it's your turn to own this now. You know what I mean? Like you get to have this, and I know who has it, and he's probably not gonna ever sell it. That's cool. Yeah. Like there's something about that community aspect when you let go of a card too, knowing I know where it's going. I know where some of these special cards are going, and I know some of these collectors that let go of some of these special cards for me, like Anthony with the one-on-one stuff. Like I take that very seriously, and I'm very honored and flattered that he trusts me, and I get to own it too. It's just those are kind of the variables in the hobby that you don't think about when it comes to card ownership and the lineage of who had it before. That makes it really special.
Totally. Well, we have hit the 30-minute mark. I am not here. I'm recording when this comes out. I will be roaming Italy. So hope that you all have an amazing week. Dennis, I don't know if I'm going to see you next week. We'll see. Maybe we can do a show from across the pond. I'll text you. I'll have access to text and everything. So, maybe I'll reach out to you. I mean, I'll be 9 hours ahead of you on your PST. So that might be kind of tricky, but let's see if we can make it work.
Let's try it. That'd be fun.
Maybe not. Yeah, over the next week or so, I'll reach out to you. We'll see if we can do an episode. That'd be fun.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.